All right, folks. So in Brightspace, as I said, you can access the module under Content, and it's Unit 2, Shared Perspectives, Media, and Oral Communication. And the first thing I've done is include a little intro to the unit so that you have a sense of where we're headed and why we're doing this. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about accountable talk, and the slides for that lesson are right here. And then today, you're just going to open up the Orange Shirt Day Unlearn poster pack. Folks are going to be choosing one poster to have a look at, and then you have the time later in the period to get a little bit of work done. All right. So, in terms of an intro, this is what we're looking at. So you'll remember at the beginning of our semester, quadmester, you'll remember listening to Adichie's The Danger of a Single Story, where she said that when we reject the single story, when we realize that there is never a single story about any place, we regain a kind of paradise. And many of you, in your feedback on that lesson, told me that you really appreciated listening to what she had to say. That it was um, an idea that you hadn't really consciously thought about before, but it made a lot of sense, and it got you thinking about this idea of sharing perspectives and how it changes our own personal worldview. And this entire unit is actually rooted in that idea that sharing perspectives allows us to then broaden our thinking, and it makes for a more um, accepting, a more equitable way of looking at the world. Storytelling, like in Adichie's TED Talk, has the power not only to share a multitude of varying perspectives and experiences, privileged, oppressed, and everything in between, it also has the power to reshape the value system, beliefs, and cultural norms within a society. It's the way by which human beings connect. As we all know, storytelling takes on many different forms and is done through many different media. In this unit, we'll be moving away from the traditional forms of storytelling that have been historically focused on in English classrooms. We will be deliberately focusing on perspectives and voices that have been underrepresented in our classrooms and in our public school system, in the hopes that we may start to reshape the status quo and bring to light culture, value systems, and worldviews that have seldom been highlighted in our public spaces. In this unit, we will be focusing on multimedia texts and developing the oral communication skills of active listening and academic discussion. We will also be challenging ourselves to hold our beliefs and perspectives in a healthy distrust, which might sound funny to you, but you'll learn about this because we know that our own perspectives are shaped by and limited to our personal experiences. So, when I say a healthy distrust, when we find ourselves thinking like wait a minute, like that's not what I've thought before, like that's different, I've never heard of that before, I want you to question why it is that you feel that resistance in thinking, right? Think about the fact that your perspective is only shaped by your own experiences, and therefore our implicit biases really do have to be addressed if we are to broaden those perspectives. So when we're pushed to think critically and question how and why texts are formed, how and why we have our own perspectives and our own ideas, and for whom those texts are created, we actually start to think in higher, like more sophisticated ways about the messaging, the way media is used, and um, the worldview that we're being presented with. I invite you to join in our conversations as much as you can in this unit. Um, like I said at the beginning, participating in discussion is so important, just like you did in the Jamboard. And we're going to be going back to that, as the unit unfolds. I wanted to just kind of activate your thinking today with that one. Um, it's really important, even if you feel like you don't have a ton to say something, to put yourself out there, to put a thought, on the table so that the discussion, we're going to be talking about accountable talk today, discussions and thinking can evolve around that little seed, because we all know that planting a seed really is the first step. Speak your truth while rooting your opinions in evidence. Be kind. Think about why you may be feeling uncomfortable at times and learn to sit with that discomfort. In this unit, we are going to be dealing with some really complex, some really difficult information. The podcast that we're going to be moving on to actually deals with trauma. It actually deals with, you know, oppression, violence, murder, um, in a Canadian context, that may be close to home. So it's really important to understand where our discomfort is coming from, understand what our limits are, and be open to feeling uncomfortable at certain times. When we feel uncomfortable, it means we are learning and growing. I always liken it to running on a treadmill. um, if you can still breathe really easily and your heart's not pounding, yeah, it's being active, but it's not really a cardiovascular, exercise. You're not building the strength. So feeling uncomfortable actually means that you're building strength, mental strength, um, and you're learning and growing. I'm excited to be on this journey with you. I will tell you that I've taught 3U for many, many years, but this is brand new. I'm designing something new for you guys, to suit our virtual classroom. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I'm really looking forward to your feedback so that this unit of work can evolve as well. So the next step is to go, oh, that's not my right unit, is to go into this module here, which is called Orange Shirt Day, the Unlearn Poster Pack number 2. And there are a few resources here. The first resource is the poster pack. We're going to get to that in a second. The next resource is a PDF learning guide, a discussion guide. So the discussion questions that you're going to be tackling eventually are in that guide. But today, we're going to be talking about accountable talk. And it's these slides here. And I'm going to open it up for you so that I can talk to you a little bit about what really good seminar discussion looks like and the skills of oral communication that we're trying to grow, because this sets the groundwork for what I'd like to see happen when students are in those breakout rooms or doing the book talks, the virtual book talks that you're going to be engaging in, um, because it'll help you figure out what the expectations are. So to start off with, this is a lesson I've done many, many times. There are 2 embedded videos here of the lesson itself. We're not going to watch those right now, but if you ever need to go back and look at this, they're in the slides. I'm also going to post this lesson that I'm doing today to our content module. Now this is taking a minute to load. So I'll just give it a second and maybe I'll close some of this stuff so that maybe it'll hurry up a little bit. Come on, there we go. All right. Slowly but surely we're getting there. So I'm just going to let this load for you. And I will start off by saying that accountable talk is called accountable. And that's your title there for today. It's called accountable because when you are accountable, it means that you are responsible, or you are like taking on a kind of obligation in order to fulfill a goal. So I want you to think of like an accountant, um, someone who is going to like show the evidence and be responsible for what's going on in the classroom. So accountable talk is not social talk. It is talk that's rooted in this idea that we have a common goal. And that common goal is deepening and extending our thinking. Deepening and extending our thinking through discussion. So early on in the quadmester, we talked about Bloom's taxonomy and this idea of higher order thinking. Accountable talk is pushing you from simply reading off your notes and summarizing what you've read or seen to actually analyzing and evaluating what it is that you're looking at in the classroom and possibly even creating your own, right? So if you are looking and studying a podcast and then you're analyzing that podcast and evaluating it, to deem whether it's good or not. Eventually, once you've had a look at enough podcasts and you've really dug in and you're able to analyze that kind of text, you should be able to pick it apart in order to put it back together and actually create your own. So this kind of discussion is pushing you up this Bloom's taxonomy so that you're engaging in higher order thinking. So again, accountable talk is purposeful. You have a purpose. You are trying to deepen and extend your thinking so that whatever body of knowledge you're working with, you're moving beyond summarizing and remembering to actually applying what you know to analyze, evaluating those texts so that eventually you can create your own. Now, with any kind of talk, there are two actions that are at work. And we know the easy one is talking, right? We know the discussion involves actually saying stuff. But I would argue that the harder thing to do is listen. And this kind of talk actually requires some really active listening. And we're going to talk about um, what that looks like in these discussions. But first off, we're going to, it might be. Can you, what are you seeing right now? That's all. Okay. All right. So let me try to figure that out. Okay. Give me a second. Yeah. Yep. Give me a second. Yeah, everything's frozen here. Hold on. Can you see it now? And it says talking, what you can do. Okay, so I'm gonna, let me see what I can do. I'm gonna stop recording this and see if that'll help. Give me 1 second. Sorry about this, guys. All right, I don't know. Okay, can you see? Okay, are you able to see the slide that says talking on it? Like, can you see my cursor moving? Okay, so let's try this. Hopefully it'll work now. If it's glitchy again, let me know, okay? I may not have a recording of this, but well, I think that screencast, is it? Um, are you able to pull the slides up on your screens? So if you pull the slides up on your screens, I will tell you what slide I'm on as I talk you through it if you can't see it. I'll continue to present, but that way you'll see the slides as well. So right now I'm going to back up to slide number 2, and I'll just quickly go through the first 3 slides just to like catch up because you couldn't see it. All right. So right now I'm on slide 2, accountable talk. And the idea here is that we're talking about talk that deepens and extends our thinking. Then I go to slide 3 to remind you of that idea of higher order thinking and developing those actions in Bloom's taxonomy. Accountable talk within a classroom moves you beyond simply understanding and remembering information to actually applying what you know to analyze texts in the hopes of being able to judge them, evaluate them, and eventually create your own. So, this kind of talk is really good in developing student thinking so that we're moving up that ladder towards higher order thinking. It's even like in academic study around learning, this kind of talk is often recommended when you have to write really like intense papers. So before essay writing, you should engage in this kind of talk because it helps you develop that thinking so that before you create anything, you've actually thought about it and developed your thinking. So again, this is purposeful talk. We have a purpose when we're engaging in this kind of talk within a classroom. And like any other talk, so this is slide number 5, there are 2 actions involved. Obviously, there's speaking, but there's also listening. And we're going to be talking a lot about how important it is to listen carefully to the contributions of others in this kind of talk so that you can build upon and develop your own contributions. So, to start off with slide number 6, in terms of talking, there are a few things that you have to do. So, slide number 7 is the first part. And again, if you have a comment, if things aren't working with the lesson, just turn your mic on and let me know. The first thing that is really important with accountable talk, and this is where you should be making your notes, guys, is that you must come prepared. So, accountable talk actually relies on you as an individual doing the homework, doing the thinking, making some notes, and then arriving at the discussion with those notes or with that legwork already done. So you must come prepared. And real sticklers with accountable talk, like teachers, will say students who don't have notes can observe the discussion, but they can't actually participate. So you must have the work done prior to joining the discussion so that you can participate effectively. Now, part of the reason that you must come prepared, and I'm going to just back up slide, this is slides 7 and 8, is when you're accountable to 3 different things. The first thing you're accountable to is the body of knowledge that you're working with within the course. So, accountable talk is saying, I'm going to honor the text, the learning, the ideas that we're dealing with in this unit so that when I'm discussing, I'm accountable. Like, I'm responsible for honoring that body of knowledge. So, that's the first thing. Then on slide 8, so you're coming prepared because you're honoring the body of knowledge. On slide 8, you're also accountable to the learning community. Now, we all know that we belong to a classroom community. That classroom community, you may be friends with folks in the classroom, but when you come into that classroom, you're actually joining that community as a learner. And collectively, you have a goal to move along the curriculum, right? To move from point A to point B in the curriculum in that subject area. So you're accountable to that learning community. And you're saying, when you join that talk, that I am here to move along that curriculum. And I know and I'm going to honor the fact that you're here to move along that curriculum spectrum from point A to point B. And because of that, when you join the discussion, you're going to say something meaningful. You're coming prepared and you're going to say something that's going to enrich the discussion because you want to contribute to moving that community along from point A to point B in the curriculum. And then finally, I'm going to show you this little guy here. You're accountable to yourself, right? You're part of that community. And oh my gosh, what am I doing? You're part of the community. I'm on slide 11 here, and I'm actually going to, I don't know if I can do this. I'm just jumping ahead a little bit. Um, when you're accountable to yourself, you are honoring the fact that you have goals within the subject area that you're trying to achieve. You're accountable to the fact that um, you have ideas that are valuable and that should be honored and are worthy of sharing. So you're going to listen to others with intent and with purpose so that you then can contribute your thinking in the most authentic, honest, and valuable way possible. And one of the things, I'm changing the order of these slides a tiny bit here, that you do with accountable talk actually involves body language. So I use the acronym SLANT for this, and you can see like the enthusiasm in this little face here. When you are showing that you care about the subject matter that you're discussing, the community that you're participating within, and about yourself, you're going to look the part. So, slant means that you're going to sit up and be attentive. You're going to genuinely like act like you care by looking at the people who are speaking. Sometimes you're going to make some sort of gesture as you're listening to show that you're following. You're going to nod your head, right? Or you're going to smile, or you're going to continue to make eye contact. Um, and you're going to take turns. So, SLANT is an acronym that helps you remember what accountable talk should look like. So, if someone was glancing around the room, they can tell this isn't just a social discussion. This isn't people hanging out and chatting. This is a seminar discussion that has purpose, right? Where people are actually grappling with ideas and working things out. All right. Um, then, slide 11. Of course, when you join this kind of discussion, you have things prepared for you to say. However, if you were to only join the discussion and say the things that are on your paper and walk away, which I know we've all seen happen in seminars, you actually aren't leaving that discussion having learned anything more. The trick to actually learning more and leaving the discussion enriched is by listening. So, the trick to accountable talk is actually being a really good active listener. Because when you share what you know, that's what you came to the table with, right? You came with that thinking. But when you genuinely listen to what other people are contributing, you're actually pushing your thinking beyond the boundaries of your own thinking, your own experience, your own reading, your own analysis. So you're listening to what others are saying meaningfully. And sometimes this means that you're actually even making notes on what others are saying. And then you're responding to them in meaningful ways that are off script. So your notes that you come to the discussion with, that you prepared initially, are your ticket in, and they allow you to contribute at first. But as this kind of talk evolves, the thinking is that you may not even be reading off of a sheet of paper anymore. You're listening, and the conversation is now sustaining itself because you're going back and forth from prepared contribution to responding to what you're hearing, and the conversation then evolves and grows. So now we're on slide 13. These little cards are actually mine. I have them in my physical classroom here at CK. I've worked these tips into some of the posts that I've made in the last couple of weeks. When you're listening, you want to think about responding to others by doing certain things. There are actions you can do to respond. You can make connections. So you can say, oh, that reminds me of la 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 la. You can highlight something in the text that you can connect to. So you can say, oh yeah, when a DJ said, and you have a quote that you can use, right? You can highlight a quote or a particular thing in a text that you can connect to. You can praise what the person has said, and you can say, wow, that's a great contribution. I never heard that before. Or that really, makes me think differently. Thank you for sharing that. You can agree or respectfully disagree with a point that has been made. You can build upon what someone has said. So often praising and building upon go hand in hand. You can say, like, wow, I really like that idea. I'd like to add, right? Um, or you can completely, transform the conversation by saying, actually, that I'd like to talk about, and you can change the subject or move on. So there are actually, like, and I will say that sometimes participating in accountable talk feels a little robotic because you're using these sort of sentence stems to push the conversation along. But eventually, these habits and these actions become second nature. And as you're listening to what folks are saying, you're constantly thinking, can I connect? Do I like this? Do I agree? Do I disagree? Um, do I want to build upon this? And you start to become more fluent in the way you participate in this kind of discussion. And you're going to be getting a resource, a little anchor chart that you're going to use in your seminars and your discussions with these sentence stems. As we go along. So, slide 14 talks about being accountable to that learning community. When we are active listeners, we are making space within the conversation for all the voices that are present. We have all participated in discussions where some people are extroverts, some people have done the homework, and others might not have. Some people have better understanding of the content than others. Some people are just more comfortable chatting. Some people are just having a bad day. Inviting all voices in and meeting them wherever they are is part of being accountable to that learning community. It's part of building the space within our classrooms. Today. Oh boy. I'm gonna have to pause here because announcements at CK are being made. So I'm gonna take a moment. These lands surrounding the great to pause. Steeped in indigenous history. Oh my gosh. This is a work in progress, guys, and I really appreciate your patience. Give me a second. The four directions. Land, waters, plants, and ancestors that walk before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. Sorry, guys. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us. So announcements are playing here at CK. I'm just going to wait until they're done. Can you guys let me know whether you can hear me or not? Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Please stand for the playing of the national. Here we go. It's coming. No.
Good morning, CK. Tomorrow is unofficially Blue Jays Day here at CK. To celebrate the Blue Jays postseason run, please feel free to wear your jerseys, your caps, or just a little bit blue to see how far we can get. Wednesday, although you won't be in the building, is Orange Shirt Day. Orange Shirt Day is a day to remember and to honor the importance of understanding the residential school system in Canada. So even though you're not in school, don't forget on Wednesday to wear orange in recognition and remembrance of all the survivors of residential schools. Have a great day, CK. Happy Monday.
Hey guys, I am having a hell of a time. I did not know that I got kicked off the Google Meet. I just kept teaching my lesson. My computer was completely frozen in all other tabs. I don't even know. Like, this is not even funny anymore. This is brutal. I'm so sorry. Google Meet like crashed on me. Can you guys hear me right now? This is brutal.